Finally, we are back and we're so excited. Welcome to the DTM season 2022. And we're here in Portimao in Portugal. Absolutely psyched because we've got 29 cars in the starter field, which is a record. Also, we've got 6 brands, amongst them being Porsche. And this season is going to be absolutely spectacular. That is for sure. We've got blue skies, we've got perfect weather for this season opener. And also quite surprising qualifying result because we've got a rookie. The question is, does he feel like a rookie or not? But we've got Mirko Bortolotti, who's starting in P1 today. I'm just wondering, just a quick question. Do you consider yourself a rookie, even though you were starting last year for one weekend in the DTM?
Well, no, because I did a race last year. So I wouldn't say I'm a rookie, but looking at the full championship, then yes, obviously. But I guess that guest start last year counts as, for not being a rookie anymore. So.
All right, and speaking of the guest start last year, you managed to secure a second place, which was pretty impressive. And now in this season, the very first qualifying, you managed to secure pole. And I heard that you want to get the first victory for Lamborghini. So my question is, will that be today?
I hope so. I think we are in the best position to try it, at least. We all know the quality of the field, so it's really hard to make any predictions. We can only focus on ourselves, trying to have a clean race. And the goal is definitely to try to win the race.
All right, well, best of luck. You're keeping a cool head with the umbrella over your head, of course. So best of luck for your first race this season. And, well, it's going to be very exciting. But now, first of all, here's your commentator.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Welcome along, everybody, to the start of a brand new season of the DTM. I'm Chris Hartley. I'll talk you through all of the action this weekend. We've already had a really, really close qualifying session. The pole sitter there taking Lamborghini onto pole for the first time, Mirko Bortolotti, and with his new team for the year, the Grasser Racing team. He's a factory driver. He raced, as Verena said, one weekend last year at Aston as a guest and got the first ever podium for Lamborghini. That was with T3 Motorsport. But what a qualifying session it was. Michael Grenier, who's one of 13 rookies on the grid this year, was just a fraction of a second behind him, has qualified second. Lucas Auer, who was really strong in the second half of last year in his first season driving GT3 cars, but of course a very experienced DTM racer, was third. And Felipe Fraga, who's the new star at Ferrari in the Red Bull AF Corsa team, the former Brazilian stock car champion, came home in fourth. And the top 4 were covered by just 60 thousandths of a second. As Verena said, 29 cars on the grid, which is the biggest grid that we've had since the DTM was relaunched in the year 2000. So lots to look forward to, and we can head back down to Verena now on the grid.
So there are a lot of new faces in the DTM, that's for sure. But this face we all know, Lucas Auer. Wonderful having you here also in this season. And you managed to secure a P3 in the first qualifying. But obviously it's going to be pretty tough race, I guess, with especially 29 cars in the field.
Yes, I expect a tough and long race. I think it's all about tire management, speed, strategy and pit stop. And no mistakes allowed with this driver field. Is so first class, so should be a really good show.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We all are. And now in regards to the track temperature, how challenging is it going to be on the tires? I heard it's very hot here in Portugal.
Yes, and the asphalt is very aggressive, so I think in the races you will see a couple of changes. Some people maybe qualify more in order to be for the race good. So let's see.
So hopefully you have a good strategy there.
I think so too. I hope so too.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and you go for it. Best of luck. Back to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Yeah, always good to see Luki on the grid. And to 5th place in the championship he went last year. Really was a consistent points scorer. Only had 3 non-scoring finishes across the course of the season, and then got a couple of wins and a podium in the last 3 weekends of the season. That's the man, though, with the number 1 proudly emblazoned upon the car. Maximilian Gutz, the 2021 champion. And he is going to start this race from 9th on the grid. But when I tell you how close it was in qualifying amongst the top 4, it's also worth pointing out how close it was just behind that as well, with 9/10 of a second covering 24 of the 29 cars on the track. Lucas Stoltz is somebody else that was a guest driver last season in one weekend at the Nürburgring. He's qualified in 8th position, and he's here with the HRT team, the former Blancpain champion. We've got the Lamborghini on pole. We've got 2 Mercedes just behind. Grenier, the man from Quebec, the Canadian, who has been racing in the Intercontinental GT Challenge of late and comes with lots of GT experience. Lucas Auer in third, Felipe Fraga in fourth. So it's Lamborghini, Mercedes, Ferrari, the first four cars on the grid. There's Sheldon van der Linde. I grabbed a word with him after qualifying. He was pretty happy-ish. Never happy unless you're right at the front, but he was pretty happy with the way it went. He would have liked to have been a little bit higher up the grid, but seventh is a good start for him with his new team, Schubert Motorsport, with a new M4, he said, which is a lot easier to drive, a lot easier to set up than the older car which he raced and had a struggle with last year with Rover Racing. He also had a lot of bad luck last year, and he asked me to keep my fingers crossed for him that bad luck goes away. Some returning drivers to DTM this year. Maro Engel comes back, the former Nürburgring 24-hour race winner. He's been concentrating on GTs in various championships, including the ADAC GT Masters Championship, since he was last involved in the DTM. So he comes back for the first time since he last raced in the DTM Championship back in 2017. We've got René Rast, the three-time champion, back in the field as well after a year away when he was focusing on Formula E last season. And Philip Heng is another driver to come back to the DTM after some time away. He, a former race winner, and was last in the championship in 2019. Let's go back down to Verena on the grid now, though.
And now we're absolutely excited to have the 9-time rally world champion Sebastian Loeb here with us in the DTM. Wonderful seeing you here. You're jumping in for Nick Cassidy. How excited are you to be here in the DTM?
For sure, it's an exciting category, an exciting race. The level is really high. I didn't drive a lot in racing since a long time, so difficult to get back in the rhythm, but okay. I enjoyed it. The cars are amazing, and I think the battle will be really intense.
I'm pretty sure it will be, but we're very excited to see you race here. So best of luck for the race. Thank you so much, Sebastian. And we're going to move over because we've got Calvin van der Linde, who of course made this season last year super exciting because we saw amazing battles between him and Liam Lawson, and it was such a super tight result in the end, and exciting of course. So let's see if we can still grab him here. It's so nice to see so many cars here at the starter field. 29 cars. That really is absolutely exciting. And there's Calvin, so let's see if we can just grab him because he's starting in P17, so obviously it's going to be interesting to find out. Surely he's not excited about that, but knowing Calvin, he will push really hard. He's still in discussions here with his team, so let's see if we can just butt in for a second. I'm sure he'll make anything possible, if it's possible. So working on a good strategy there, obviously. Hello, Calvin, hello, good to see you again.
You too.
So seeing you in P17, not what we expected, but knowing you're going to push so hard. So how are you going to make it happen?
It's a bit unfamiliar territory, to be honest, but you know, sometimes that's the way it is in such a difficult field. We're enjoying the nice weather here. We've got our strategy set. I think we've got a couple of options to go forward, so it's going to be a very exciting race. I can't wait.
It's going to be so exciting. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Best of luck.
See you soon.
And now, yeah, let's get ready to get racing. And now here, everyone, is your commentator. Enjoy.
Indeed, Verena. Yeah, the grid gets bigger and bigger. Poor old Verena has miles to travel now to cover one end of the grid to the other. Any bigger, any more cars, and she's going to have to get a taxi. A long way back, as he's not accustomed to for Calvin van der Linde, who was very much, of course, a feature of the championship fight last year, finished third in the end. But he is more than halfway back down the grid, 17th on the grid, when you consider we got 5 pole positions last year, and his average grid in the championship was 4th, and his worst grid last year was a couple of 8th place starts. Then he's not used to seeing so many cars in front of him. There's Mirko Bortolotti, the Grasser Racing team, which is a multiple championship winning team in Blancpain GT, for example, and they are very experienced but new to DTM, and they also have former DTM race winner and double Le Mans winner Manuel Reuter, who you may have seen when Mirko was being interviewed by Verena, holding the umbrella for him. So he's the sporting director at Grasser Racing now. So they bring with them lots of experience, with Mirko, of course, himself a star driver and a factory driver for the team. As Thomas Biermeier, who will be hoping for better things for Abt Sportsline after qualifying didn't quite go according to plan. Looking very strong with the Audis during the course of the 2 full days of testing on Tuesday and Wednesday, and also during the free practice session. But unfortunately for them, highest placed Audi is Team Rosberg's Nico Müller, starts 10th, and René Rast is the best Abt placed car, going to start in 11th place. Lots to talk about then as we get set for the start of our brand new season. Welcome to the Algarve. The southwest coastline of Portugal is a popular holiday destination. It's also renowned for great golf courses and excellent surfing. And in the build-up to the race weekend, several DTM drivers were given a lesson by Sebastian Steutner, who's one of the greatest big wave surfers in the world. This part of the world boasts an average 300 days of sunshine each year. There are long, sandy beaches, there's some quaint fishing villages and towns, and fresh seafood is readily available in the region's many highly rated restaurants. Portimao itself, a port city renowned for its old quarter, its yacht-filled marina, and access to many beaches. But a short drive from the city takes you out into the rolling hills, past many vibrant orange groves, and out to the fantastic Circuit Internacional de Algarve. It's one of the most undulating tracks in the world, and since it opened in 2008, it's hosted MotoGP, World Superbikes, and even the Portuguese Formula One Grand Prix. And now, for the first time, the DTM comes to the Algarve as we get set to kick off the 2022 season. There is the aerial shot of this magnificent circuit. Undulating is one word. There are 8 uphill sections and 7 downhill sections. It's a proper roller coaster track. It's 4.6 kilometers long, runs in a clockwise direction, and there are 15 turns and a really good combination of turns as well. Mirko Bortolotti grabbing pole position. The start and the end of the lap, sectors 1 and 3, were where he really nailed it during the qualifying session. He actually lost out in the middle of the lap in sector 2 by about 0.3 of a second. So that was the sort of slight Achilles heel for the Lamborghini, for the pole sitter. But the start and the end of the lap, he was incredibly strong. Right, new rules on the screen. There are various changes. One of them is that the pole sitter gets to choose which side of the grid they start from this season. They have to announce that in a time window before the start of the race. And a big change is that the mandatory pit stop window, as you see, now runs at a selected time in the race between the end of minute 10 and 40 minutes into the race. So that's going to open up the strategies. We've got full course yellows that have been brought in by the team, led by a new race director, Scott Elkins, who's replaced Niels Vitic, who's gone on to become the Formula 1 race director. But Scott has been deputy Formula 1 race director, worked in Formula 2 and Formula 3. He's an ex-race engineer himself, has run teams, so brings a great wealth of experience, the American. He grew up near Indianapolis, so was always bound to end up working into motorsport. And he's our new race director. He's brought in the full course yellow as one of the new updates this year. So we could have full course yellows where the cars have to remain in single file, no overtaking, and slow down to a maximum of 80 kilometers an hour. And another of the changes you will have seen on the graphic is that with the pit window now greater, rather than the sort of single strategies that we had last year, where drivers either came in very early after 5 laps once the pit window opened, or right at the end of the race. There wasn't much in between. We're going to see a lot more variation of strategy now, I think. Another big thing in the pit stops is that there are 6 crew that can work on the cars now. Everybody has to make a mandatory pit stop still, but 6 crew. One of them is holding the lollipop. One of them is in control of the air jack, and only 4 of them can work on the wheels, and they have to change the rear wheels before the fronts now, which is something that's been brought in to even things out between the different types of car, where perhaps last season some cars were said to have a bit of an advantage in the system that the cars had, the wheels had, in terms of changing their tyres, getting out the pits quicker. So you have to change the rears first, then the fronts. Only 4 can work on it. Mentioning the full course yellow and safety car as well, the other big pit stop change is that you can now put your mandatory pit stop in during a safety car period. You couldn't do that before. You could come into the pits, but it wouldn't count as your mandatory stop. So you can now pit under the safety car, and that will count as a mandatory stop. And the same is true of full course yellows. You can pit under a full course yellow as well. Still a 55-minute plus 1 lap race. We've got 16 races this season, 8 race weekends, and this our first ever visit to the Portimao circuit, which opened back in 2008. Great, huge complex, a massive grandstand opposite the commentary box here,
weaving
along the start-finish line.
Formation. No weaving when in grid formation.
And one thing the drivers are going to have to be super careful of, because we saw lots of times taken away from drivers in qualifying, is track limits here, particularly turn 1 and turn 4, which is a quick uphill left-hand flick as they rise uphill out of what's pretty much a hairpin at turn 3, rise up through turn 4, and they carry lots of speed through there. They whip over the crest of a hill. and down the straight which runs parallel to the start-finish straight. Those are the two areas where track limits were an issue. Ricardo Feller had 2 lap times taken away from him for being deemed to exceed track limits. Otherwise, he might have been higher up the order. At one point, he looked like he was going to be on provisional pole position, but the lap time for him, sadly, taken away, and he wasn't the only one. So the drivers are building up then, ready for the start of 55 minutes plus 1 lap of racing here in Portimao. Your first chance, if you haven't been watching the free practice sessions or qualifying earlier on today, to get a look at this wonderful undulating circuit, all 4.6 kilometres of it. There's a huge kart track over in the background as well, part of the complex. There's a technology centre. There's even a huge hotel on site. MotoGP here last weekend, and they've got World Superbikes coming up at the end of the season in October. So it hosts some huge events, and DTM now added to that list. So that's the run out of turn 5, which is perhaps a key overtaking spot. I spoke to Miguel Grenier, who starts from the front row of the grid after qualifying, and asked him if he thought about, even though hopefully he won't, from his point of view, need to do much overtaking from second on the grid, where the spots would be. This was one of them, turn 5, down the hill into a big wide hairpin. The other one, he said, turn 3. It's hard to follow through turn 1, but turn 3, that's a good overtaking spot as well. And he also confirmed to me that tyre degradation could be an issue here. There's a lot of sweeping corners, the track temperature going up all the time. It was only 17 degrees this morning, but yesterday afternoon in free practice 2, even though the air temperature was only about 20 degrees, the track temperature was well over 40 degrees. So they're on the formation lap, and this is how they're going to line up for the first round of DTM 2022. Mirko Bortolotti on pole position for the Grasser Racing team in the Lamborghini. Miguel Grenier on the front row alongside him for Mercedes in the Team Grupper M racing car. Lucas Auer and Felipe Fraga are on row 2, Mercedes and Ferrari respectively. Nicky Tim, son of 1986 DTM champion Kurt Tim, comes into DTM for the first time and has looked quick all the way through pre-season. And he starts, the former Porsche champion, 5th on the grid for T3 Motorsport, with Maro Engel returning to the DTM, a DTM race winner, one of 9 winners that we've got in the field this year in DTM. He is starting 6th on the grid in Mercedes. Sheldon van der Linde for Schubert Motorsport starts 7th. He was 5th in the championship a couple of years ago. Let's see what he can do here. Then we've got Lucas Stoltz 8th, Maxi Gotts and Nico Müller rounding out the top 10 on the grid. Nico Müller, having topped the times in many of the free practice sessions, may be a little bit disappointed to be back in 10th place, but let's see what he can do. So we're all set to go racing then over this slight crest on the exit to turn 15. The safety car peels in to the left is the pole sitter of your picture. He'll be on the right-hand side going into turn 1. That's where he's elected to be, Mirko Bortolotti. Alongside in the Mercedes and Miguel Grenier, the Canadian, and Lucas Auer right behind the Ferrari of Felipe Fraga making his DTM debut in the mix as well. Getting ready then for the rolling start as the lights go out and the DTM 22 season gets underway. It's absolutely neck and neck for the lead of the race here. Grenier's got a really good start on the outside line, he is though, and he's still got his nose in front. He has to keep his foot in. He goes over the curbs. He's going to be the outside for turn 2 and turn 3 though, so the Lamborghini should sneak back up the inside, but they're still absolutely neck and neck. Lucas Auer's tucked in behind in 3rd. Nicky Timmer's made a good start. He's got ahead of Felipe Fraga into 4th. Over the hill and through turn 4 they go, and just about now the pole sitter Bertolotti has edged clear, but it is only just as Grenier then weaves to block Lucas Auer, who's trying to attack into the hairpin at turn 5. He's left the door open and Nicky Tim now tries to come up the inside of him, but he stays there in 4th. So Lamborghini 1st and 4th, and in between them the 2 Mercedes of Grenier and Auer, the one that dropped back a bit from the early run into turn 1, but only by 1 place was Felipe Fraga in the Red Bull liveried AF Corsa Ferrari. So he's there just behind them in 5th place as they come through. Maximilian Gotts, I think, has made a decent start as well. Now actually Engel's in front of him, so Engel's got ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, and maybe back at place just outside the top 10 has gone Maximilian Gotts, the reigning champion. So Bertolotti leads, Grenier in 2nd, nip and tuck for 3rd because Nico Tim having a big luck up the inside there, the Danish driver. And there another former champion, Marco Wittmann, coming through in the green and white Volkenhorst BMW, the new M4 for this season. And they've got a teammate for him this year as well. That's René Rast coming through shot, having won all his titles racing against Team Rosberg. He's now driving for them, the 3-time champion, the 24-time race winner. And amongst the 6 brands. Porsche now in for a full season with SSR Performance and Dennis Olsen for their top qualifiers. Top 3 come down, kicking up the cement dust on track. And Mauro Engel had a big look at the inside into turn 1 to try and dislodge the Ferrari from 5th place, but he tucked back in behind in the end. So Mauro Engel remains in 6th place, Sheldon van der Linde in 7th, Stolz is 8th, Gutz stayed where he started actually in 9th place. René Rast has got himself just about into the top 10. Nico Müller hasn't made the best of start zone, he's outside the top 10 still. And there another of the Lamborghinis in the fields is number 85, Clement Schmidt, another of the Grasser Racing Team cars right at the back of the field. So he's had a problem somewhere on the first lap of the race. Esteban Moot dropped back as well, last but one. Everybody made the finish line and completed lap 1, but not everybody had a great first lap. It was a very, very big field of cars. Right then, rising over the crest they come, out through turns 10 and 11, back downhill towards 12 and 13, into sector 2 of the lap now. And with Lucas Auer into 2nd place ahead of Grenier. He's just started to drop his co-Mercedes driver now. And a replay on the run into turn 1. That was contact, and that was what happened to Clement Schmidt, trying to get up the inside into turn 1. So it was the start of the lap, and 2 did not, I'm afraid, quite fit into 1. And this is how Lucas Auer snuck himself up into 2nd place. Tight move at turn 5, down the inside, forced out Grenier wide on the exit, losing all of his experience there, and now just edging clear in 2nd place. And Bortolotti leads by just over a second from Auer. Grenier and Tim 3rd and 4th. Still hanging on to 5th place is the Ferrari of Felipe Fraga, the Brazilian. He's actually edged clear now a little bit of Mauro Engel. Sheldon van der Linde is looking a bit more racy in the Schubert reds and yellow BMW, just behind in 7th place. Then Lucas Stolz in the yellow and blue HRT Mercedes has got his mirrors full of the reigning champion Maximilian Gotz. That looks like Dev Gore in his 2nd season in DTM, the American, in Strife. So one of the Rosberg Audis perhaps headed for the pits, certainly not going very quickly at the moment. The overhead view of turn 5, the uphill climb on the SSR Performance Porsches gaining a place down the inside there. And there a replay of what happened, I'm afraid, to Dev. Some contact with Rolf Inischen, I think, going side by side with him, and full 360, gathered it up nicely again, but with a bit of damage to the car. So leading the race, the pole sitter through sector 1. He was caught by 0.2 of a second though, almost matching him in the 2nd sector to within 1,000th of a second was Lucas Auer. But Lucas is a little bit quicker on this lap. He's already got the fastest lap of the race from the previous lap, where he took a 10th out of the race leader's advantage. And Nicky Tim now fending off Felipe Fraga, who's coming back at him in the Ferrari after Nicky got through on the first lap of the race. Definitely edged clear of Mauro Engel in the pink Mercedes now, and he's definitely having to work pretty hard to keep Sheldon van der Linde's BMW, the leading BMW in the field, behind him. Marco Wittmann 13th through shot. Top 10 score points as Nico Müller off the road there and in dramas, and having looked really good in all of the sessions here, even topping the times and setting the fastest lap yesterday across the free practice sessions. It's been a pretty disastrous first couple of laps, I'm afraid, for Nico Müller. And into the pits he will come with smoke billowing out the back of the car. Now, is that engine related, or is it bodywork rubbing on the tyres?
Box. We drive in the garage. Box.
No, he's out. So that's a replay of where it all went wrong. Yeah, the car just stopped up at the top of the hill. Looks like the run through turn 10. Through turn 10, I think. And already a retirement for Nico Müller. Huge disappointment. Kimi Limitainen and the team at Rosberg have been working so hard over the winter to make up ground after a really disappointing season last year. And there's an upgrade, an Evo upgrade on the Audi R8, so it was looking much more competitive, but he's not going to get to the end of the race, I'm afraid. Right, you can see the live gaps on your graphic to the top left there. They update all the time on a regular basis with the graphics package that we have, not just at the end of each sector, and you can see the gaps either growing or coming down, and it's 0.92 seconds now between the race leader and then the blue and white Lucas Auer Mercedes, edged away now from Grenier. who's about a second, just under a second clear of Niki Tim, who's a bit less under pressure from the Ferrari this time. And they're in the garage, just had sight for Nico Müller. End of the race already. The worst possible start to the season for him and for Team Rosberg, the former double championship runner-up. So we're coming up in a couple of minutes' time to the pit window opening. Once 10 minutes have been completed. And Marco Wittmann tumbling down the order as well on that lap. He's down to 27th position. So another expected front runner in dramas here as we see Mirko Bortolotti continuing to just maintain the advantage. Absolute best last lap of the race for the pole sitter, but he was only a few hundredths of a second quicker than Lucas Auer, and Lucas has taken a 10th back out of him through sector 1, so it's nip and tuck between them. There's not much between the pair of them. They're both, at the moment, about 4/10 of a second quicker than Grenier in 3rd and Tim in 4th place. Over the crest they come and about to run downhill through turn 12 into turn 13, the left-hander. Just before you get to the apex, the track starts to climb once more and then goes downhill. So both of the Rosberg Audis out. We saw Devgor going slowly, he's brought it in as well. Nico Müller, we've already seen out of the car, and absolutely heartbreaking for the team after all the work and all the promise that's been shown coming into this first race of the season. So out on the track, things going well for Mirko Bortolotti, but we can hear some news now down in the pit lane with Verena.
I'm now here with Devgor. What a first race. I mean, how devastating. What exactly happened that both of you guys had to retire?
Yeah, I'm not so sure what happened with Nico yet, but for me it was already on the formation lap in the grid. I took a really big hit from behind, and I think gave us some gearbox damage, and I tried to hang on for a bit, but just I didn't. I was only getting about half RPM, and so it was already risking the gearbox a bit too much, and I didn't have any pace, and then trying to defend, and I took another contact in later in turn 1 and got spun around. So yeah, we qualified out of position, and these are the kind of things that happen, but yeah, hopefully tomorrow will be a better day.
We'll cross our fingers. Thank you so much, Dev.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. A real shame for Devgor. It's certainly looked like he'd been making big steps forwards during pre-season tests. His second season in the championship. American who lives in Germany and Heidelberg to be close to the team, but out already, I'm afraid, for him. And then we saw that Marco Wittmann had dropped right down the order, and he's brought his car into the pits now. So the 2014-2016 champion, who had that really difficult end to the season after being a championship challenger for 4/5 of the season and always in the points. The last 2 rounds at Hockenheim and Norris Ring were a bit of a disaster for him, and that bad luck seems to have continued. Two SSR Performance Porsches have been working hard together. 94 is Dennis Olsen, former Porsche Carrera Cup German champion, and Lawrence Van Toor in the 92 car. More news now then, down in the pit lane with Verena.
And I also managed to grab hold of Nico Müller. Nico, devastating for you as well. The race already ended. Can you say why? What happened that you had to retire?
It's a bit loud at the moment. I hope you can hear me, but yeah, I just had a puncture on the rear right after contact with another Audi, which is a bit annoying. But honestly, in these, there is the other Audi. In these first lap battles, things like this happen. It was a normal touch, and I was just probably on the wrong angle for the rear right, and I had a puncture. So that's an early end to the day, unfortunately, after a qualifying where we maximized our potential. And yeah, looking forward to another chance tomorrow.
All right, thank you so much, Nico. Back to you.
Yeah, a real shame for Nico, who has also been trying his hand at commentary recently, commentating on Formula 1 for Swiss TV. He's got a busy racing programme lined up, and yeah, so it was a puncture. It was a tyre rubbing on bodywork that caused that huge plume of smoke rather than engine related, but he's out of the race, he's retired. And also that incident involving Devgor, apparently under investigation. We've seen Ricardo Feller making an early pit stop then. So we've lost Devgor, Nico Müller and Marco Wittmann. And we've had pit stops from Ricardo Feller, David Schumacher making his DTM debut this weekend. Dad Ralf Schumacher, the ex-DTM racer himself and Formula 1 racer, of course, is here, busy being a team boss these days. And last couple of seasons for David Schumacher being spent competing in the FIA Formula 3 Championship. So single-seaters up to this point in his career, but he's looked pretty promising so far as he learns this type of racing. So he's been into the pits in the team win with Mercedes, and we've had Maximilian Buch, who was also on the podium at the Norris Ring at the end of last season, into the pits as well, with that pit window having opened at the end of 10 minutes. And the champion comes in as well. Maximilian Gotz then leading another 3 cars coming into the pits. René Rast, former champion, 3-time champion, and Laurens Vanthoor have all come in as well. So they're going for early stops. It's been fascinating to see how this all works out because, as I say, a couple of the drivers have already said to me that it's going to be hard on the tyres around here, particularly this afternoon with the track temperatures going up. Michael Grenier says if you get them too hot too quickly, they really do go off very sharply. You've got to be very careful. Gotz comes out in front of Rast, who comes out in turn ahead of Vanthoor. So they all come through with no dramas. In the background there, Clement Schmidt, who had that bad first lap of the race, had already made his entrance into the pit lane. And just in front of Ricardo Feller, they come out. Feller's got everything up to speed and up to temperature, though, so he splits the pair of them and gets in behind Gotz and ahead of Rast. And now he's going to go on the attack here, the AB Sportsline machine. Ricardo Feller, the Swiss driver, onto the tail of the reigning champion, Maximilian Gotz. But the longer this goes on in the lap, the more the Mercedes might be able to fend off the Audi. So here he goes on the attack all the way around the outside at turn 5. Is it going to work? Has he got enough road? Yes, he has. Onto the curbs he goes. Well, that's committed stuff from Ricardo Feller. So he comes through and effectively becomes the leading pit stopper there. And Maximilian Gotz was running in the top 10 before the pits with René Rast just behind him. So Ricardo Feller, this could be him up possibly into the top 8 when this all settles down, having had to come from 13th on the grid. That was pretty tight for René Rast as he came out, and the crew at Grasser were ready for Clement Schmidt to come in. 60 km/h speed limit has to be adhered to as well. We've got more in the pits as well, including Michael Grenier has come in from 3rd place. Lucas Stoltz, who was running up there in the top 8, has also come into the pits on this lap. Race leader's last lap was a 1:41.8. Same for Lucas Auer. Nicky Tim is now promoted to 3rd. There is Grenier, who get out easily ahead of Lucas Stoltz. But where will he be in terms of Clement Schmidt in the blue, number 7 Audi? Comes out well clear of him.
Ahead of Stoltz, all good.
Well ahead of Stoltz, and well, that's pretty impressive from HRT. And Lucas Stoltz has got out quite a long way behind Grenier, but miles in front of that potential other top 10 battle with Feller, Gotz and Rast in there as well. So Bortolotti, the race leader, 1.5 seconds clear now of Lucas Auer. There he is, your race leader. There's the gap, which has ebbed and flowed a little bit, but generally has been growing. Nicky Tim is 3.2 seconds behind Lucas Auer, and only about 0.8 of a second behind him up to 4th place for the time being is Felipe Fraga. And there, a replay of contacts as René Rast then forced his way through on Maximilian Gotz. 2 champions coming together. So he's got ahead of him, and we've both just made their pit stops. And look at that. David Schumacher set the fastest lap of the race on his fresh tyres, 1:41.659 seconds, even though he's back in 24th place at the moment. And it's worth noting because there is an introduction of an extra point this year for the fastest lap in the race. As long as you finish in the top 10, if you get the fastest lap of the race, a bonus point. So David wouldn't get that at the moment because he's not in the top 10 as Lucas Auer comes in from 2nd place. All for work. Change the rears, change the fronts. Send it back out, 10.71 seconds. Bertolotti's going to have a big gap now, but of course he has got to make those tyres last. It will seem like forever on the pit lane speed limiter coming out of the pits. But Lucas Auer comes out and he's going to be well clear of Grenier, who was just behind him. A similar gap really before the pits, so there should be a net 2nd and 3rd once everybody makes their pit stops. But Lucas Stoltz much closer. He's the one who's really, I think, benefited from the pits and looks set potentially to gain 2 or 3 places once it all settles down. So these are the leading pit stoppers so far. Auer has just gone through shot. There, Grenier, the number 55 car, and just a second and a half or so behind them, the yellow Lucas Stoltz car. Dale Grenier, 6th in the GT World Challenge America last year with Winward Racing, who were one of the teams racing against him in DTM this year. Pro-Am champion of the Intercontinental GT Challenge. He's former Blancpain Series racer and a Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion back in 2017. Right, Bertolotti coming into the pits then from the lead of the race, and Nicky Tim just behind him. 2 Lamborghinis, 1 for Grassa and 1 for T3 Motorsport. T3 Motorsport pit lane is closest to the pit lane entry, so in comes Nicky Tim, and he was running in 4th place beforehand, so we're going to see where they all come out now in relation to Auer and Grenier, who at the moment are just about to make their way through turn 15. So Auer and Grenier about to come, you see him in the background there, onto the start-finish straight. It's going to be relatively comfortable, this, I think, for Bertolotti. Still got to get the car and the tyres up to temperature, but he will be long way clear of Auer. And Nicky Tim slots in behind Grenier, so holds on just to his 4th place, but runs wide, understeers, and here comes Lucas Stoltz to gain a net 4th place, under braking. He'll get through, and he gains the place at turn 3, which is one of the key overtaking spots. Steep climb uphill, then over the crest through turn 4, which is track limits issue area, that. And then at the 200-metre board, suddenly the track falls downhill, get to the furthest hairpin. There's 32 different configurations on this track. They use the full longest layout here. And then Nicky Tim, therefore, dropping behind Lucas Stoltz. So Lucas Stoltz looked like he'd already gained time during the pits relative to others, and he's also definitely gained at least 1 place now, having got ahead of Nicky Tim. But Nicky will have slightly fresher tyres, of course, at the end of the race. So Felipe Fraga, who you're looking at now, leads the race for the time being for Ferrari, yet to make his pit stop. Maro Engel is in 2nd place, 3/4 of a second behind him in the pink Gruppe M Mercedes, the former Nürburgring 24-hour race winner. And then you've got the 2 Van der Lindes, Sheldon 3rd and Kelvin 4th. The BMW ahead of the Audi, quite a big gap between them. Kelvin coming from 17th on the grid, is 4th at the moment, but none of these have made their pit stops yet. Dennis Olsen, the Norwegian former Porsche Carrera Cup German champion and Super Cup runner-up, is 5th. Tommy Preining, another of our rookies in the Kuss Team Bernhard Porsche, another former Porsche Carrera Cup German champion, young driver, the talented Austrian, is 6th. Philipp Eng is 7th, another Austrian in Schubert Motorsport, coming back to DTM this year. Arjun Maini, first ever Indian to race in the DTM, and on the podium for the first time at the Norris Ring at the end of last season. He's there in 8th place with his new team, HRT. Speaking to him in the pre-season test at Hockenheim a few weeks ago. He hasn't worked with any of the team before at other teams in the past, so it's all new to him, but he said he was very impressed on the engineering side with our HRT. Had worked on the car and the setup. So Arjun in 8th place. Sebastian Loeb running in 9th. He only qualified 21st, but he was only 7/10 of a second off pole position. A pretty good effort for the 9-time World Rally Champion. His target is 12th place, because that is where Sebastian Ogier finished when he guested in the championship 4 seasons ago. That was his best finish at 12th place for the now 8-time World Rally Champion, the other very quick French Sebastian rally star. So Sebastian Loeb has done some car racing in the past, including 2 very successful campaigns in the World Touring Car Championship, where he finished 3rd in the championship in back-to-back seasons, and also took a number of race wins and podiums. But it's been a while since he's raced cars. He's still racing. Still rallying at the start of this year, and won the opening round of the World Rally Championship. He's not doing a full campaign, but 48-year-old still very special talent. There's his teammate there that leads for now the race. We have had Philipp Eng and Arjun Maini, who've just both been talking about. They're both into the pits now. So the leading pit stopper, which at the moment is Mirko Bortolotti, who led the race beforehand, 14th. He'll move up to 12th place overall now as he comes through past those 2 in the pits and into turn 1. So here's your net race leader, Bortolotti. Lucas Auer, his closest rival, but a reasonably big gap between the pair of them. There is Esme Hawkey back into the DTM for the second season, the former Porsche Carrera Cup GB Pro-Am champion. And hasn't had the opportunity to do any pre-season testing, so when she came to Portimao a few days ago, it's the first time she'd been back in the car, so trying to play catch-up and trying to get fitness. She works really hard on the fitness, trying to get the fitness right up there as well, because this track has different stresses on the body, she was telling me earlier on, with all those undulations, all the compression, the extra G-force you get with these rises and falls up through the track. So Esme still getting to grips with the track. Most of the tracks this year she will now know, having learnt them all last year, but this is going to be another track, as it is for quite a few of the drivers now trying to learn for the first time. Felipe Fraga, who leads the race for now, but yet to make his pit stop, has raced here in the World Endurance Championship. And some of them have raced here, some of them have tested here, but not all of them. So there is the race leader, Net Bortolotti, 12th place overall. And his last lap time in the number 63 Grassa Lamborghini was a 1:42.2. Lucas Auer did a personal best 1:41.3, nearly a second quicker, and also quicker than Bortolotti on the last lap was Grenier, who is only about 1.3 seconds behind Lucas Auer. So it's starting to bunch up a little bit, and responding to that as Bortolotti, who then puts in his personal best lap of the race with a 1:41.2 and grows the gap ever so slightly by a couple of tenths on that lap. You're looking at Sheldon van der Linde in the Schubert BMW, running in 3rd place overall, but realistically hoping to be in the top 10 and in the points once all the pit stops sort themselves out. 55-minute plus 1 lap race duration, which means that when we get 15 minutes to go, that's when the pit window will close at the end of the 40th minute. It's David Schumacher, who had the fastest lap of the race earlier on in the white, blue and yellow number 27 Mercedes, coming under all sorts of scrutiny from Clement Schmidt there just behind him. They're running 23rd and 24th. Clement Schmidt takes to the curbs to try and find a line on the way into turn 5, and then maybe get on the gas a little bit quicker coming out of the turn, sets it up, go over the crest, and they get to the 50-metre board. It's a slight downhill drop then into turn 7. Black and white flag for disrespecting track limits message coming up there as well, and there'll be a few of those, so you have to heed the warnings, otherwise you can get time penalties. The most recent one going out to number 31 Sheldon van der Linde, running in 3rd place, the South African, as it stands. Falling away a little bit in terms of time compared to the two ahead of him. Schumacher on the defensive here. Gets his elbows out. Clement Schmidt still gunning for him, still trying to find a way through, up on the curbs. Can he get through there? No, he can't, as they make their way up through the top of the hill, over the crest, and then begin the downhill descent through the last couple of corners with the Mercedes still just ahead. So a nice battle this going on. David Schumacher, just 20 years of age, races under the German flag. He was actually born in Austria, in Salzburg. He gets a really good run there, coming out of turn 15 to edge away from the Swiss driver Clement Schmidt in the Grassa Racing Team Lamborghini, who's been competing in ADAC GT Masters for the last couple of seasons with that team, but has also raced in Blancpain. Is also a former Porsche Carrera Middle East champion on 2 occasions as well. Very experienced driver, now in his early 30s, Clement Schmidt. So they're having a good battle a bit further down the order. And we've seen there, front of your picture, furthest left is the car which runs 3rd at the moment, Sheldon van der Linde, the reds and yellow BMW. He's got a track limits warning. And his big brother Kelvin, who was 3rd in the championship last year, coming after him a little bit now in his Sportsline Audi. So of the pit stoppers, Bortolotti in 12th place is effectively the race leader, from Auer, Grenier, Stoltz in 4th, Tim in 5th, and Feller in 6th place, Rast in 7th. But where will they slot in once everybody else makes their stops?
18 laps to go. You are going to fight with Götz and René, also Vantor.
See radio, 18 laps to go as Kelvin van der Linde comes in to make his mandatory stop. Rear wheel change first. It's brilliant to watch these teams, how quickly and effectively they work, but without panicking, without stressing.
Side by side. It's fully packed between 4 and 10 positions, between P4 and P10.
you're going to be racing against Maximilian Götz and René Rast, they say. That's quite a tasty prospect, isn't it? Rast is going to get through into turn 1 just ahead of him. He'll tuck in between Rast and Götz. We had that little coming together a few laps ago. Laurens Vanthoor just behind them in the yellow and grey SSR Performance Porsche. And there, Maximilian Götz with his tyres up to temperature, his brakes up to temperature. Right onto the tail now of Kelvin van der Linde. And the South African fends him off on the way out of turn 5 and covers off one of the big danger zones. But Maximilian Götz coming at him. So these two of the drivers gunning for the championship title last year. In the end, with the 2 wins at the Norris Ring, it went to Maximilian Götz to take his first title. Up until the start of last season, he hadn't even been on the podium in DTM. Now he's ticked them all off. Podium, win, championship. Not a pole yet, but he's one of the most consistent drivers out there, Maximilian Götz, and I think that might stand him in good stead this year because it's such a high-quality field. Many, many different potential race winners. We've got, was it 14 FIA international titles between them and another 16 international titles between the drivers in the field this year. So it's a huge quality field, and you are going to get, I reckon, lots of different winners, lots of different names on the podium this year. 16 races. If you can just keep getting the points home, getting the odd podium, maybe the odd win, Maximilian Götz is the sort of driver that can do that. He might just be in the mix at the end of the season. Sheldon van der Linde then, 1 lap after his brother, makes a stop with his team, Schubert Motorsport. Lots of pre-season testing, send the car back out on track. So from 3rd place, he's going to obviously drop down now behind Bortolotti, behind Auer. Grenier, who's about to lap Esme Hawkey. Lucas Stoltz and Nicky Tim come through as well. Ricardo Feller will also come through, and he'll get back in behind René Rast, but runs a little bit wide as he gets the tyres up to temperature, and will lose a place at the inside. Goes Kelvin van der Linde. So his brother gets him at turn 3. 2 of them racing for position now. Sheldon just trying to get things up to speed as they run down towards turn 5. But Kelvin, the black and white Abt Sportsline Audi number 3, just out of his brother Sheldon van der Linde. Both sons of Sean van der Linde, former South African touring car champion. Ian Burney, Mom and Dad be watching at home and be maybe slightly nervous about this. The 2 brothers running together. We didn't see it too often last year. Oh dear, problem there with the car stopped out on the track for Rolf Inischen, a teammate, one of the teammates at Grasser 2, the net race leader Mirko Bortolotti. So he's stopped out on track, the former Porsche AM-Class champion.
Copy.
As Felipe Fraga comes in from the lead of the race. So he's left it longer. He's going to have fresher tyres, but where will he pop back in? He would hope to be in the top 4 or 5. And here we go. Rears are done, fronts are done, lollipop lifted, away they go.
Okay,
decent stop, less than 10 seconds.
Hit traffic, team and Feller at pit exit. There will be a lot of traffic there.
Bortolotti's about to go over the start-finish line. There he is to the right of your picture. So Bortolotti, the green and black Lamborghini through. Still the net leader. Auer through. Grenier goes through. Stoltz will get through. And I think, yeah, Nicky Tim is going to get through as well. So he slots back into about where he was before all this started, in 5th place. But Ricardo Feller made an early stop. He's right on his case now. Almost some contact there, wasn't between them. The Audi, the light blue Audi of Ricardo Feller trying to sneak up the inside now through turn 4. That won't happen. He'll have to wait to turn 5. And we saw that from the aerial shot, Rolf Inishen's car was stranded on the inside of turn 1, so that's where he stops. Hopefully it won't take too long to move that car off the track because it's right by the pit lane exit for the recovery team to move him away. Well, Felipe Fraga has now managed to pull back away from Feller, and the 2 Ricardos have got René Rast just there, and Kelvin van der Linde. And there's Rolf Inishen's car, which we saw stopped, and now know where it is at turn 1. So that's in a precarious position, and the safety car is going to be deployed as a result of that. So expect a flourish of pit stops now, because if you pit during a safety car, which you can now do, your mandatory stop, then you're going to lose less time relative to the cars that are stuck behind the safety car and having to go very slowly around a lap. We've just been in the pits, came out, and did his best to pull as far clear of the track as he could, keep it in a safe position. So safety car out, and this could really mix things up now. If you can get to the end of, or leave your pit stop until late, then the benefit of that is, you know, if a safety car does happen, you can do your pit stop under a safety car, but you've got to make sure those tyres last. So this could be a big advantage now for the likes of Engel, Olsen, Preining, Marius Zug, the 19-year-old, Esteban Moot, who switched from Lamborghini to BMW into the Volkenhorst team, having raced for T3 Motorsport last year in his debut season. The exciting young Belgian driver was one of those drivers having a surfing lesson for a DTM TV feature on the off day between tests and free practice on Thursday. It was very good at surfing, apparently. So we'll see where they all fan out now, those drivers that have been able to make their pit stop behind the safety car. They will not lose anywhere near as much ground because the cars that are on track and have already made their pit stop obviously have got their speed limited. So Bortolotti rises back to the top of the field. He's picked up by the safety car. Race leader before all the pit stops started to happen, Auer and Grenier. So it's the same top three. Lucas Stoltz, the one that gained from inside the top 10, moving up to 4th place. And then Nicky Tim in 5th place. Maro Engel, where will he come out of this? Felipe Fraga was just ahead of Ricardo Feller, who in turn was just ahead of René Rast. And the two Van der Lindes fighting over the last point as Rolf Innissen's car edges further away from the danger area. So everybody has now made their mandatory pit stop, and we're going to have a straight fight to the end of the race. Bit of team radio there from Rolf Innissen. This is the view back from the SEAT safety car. The partnership between SEAT and the DTM. So these fantastic new safety cars, and that with the rear-facing camera looking back at the race leader. His teammate there, still in the car. A little bit further out of the way now, potentially. They watch on at Grasser Racing Team with mixed emotions. One driver stopped and on track, the other driver at the head of the field looking for an historic win. He got the first ever podium for Lamborghini last year at Assen. Can he get what will be a first Lamborghini DTM race victory, having already got the first pole? Can he get Grasser Racing Team's first DTM victory in their first ever race? What a turn-up that would be. The Italian ahead of the Austrian, the Canadian Grenier in 3rd. Then Lucas Stoltz from Germany, Nicky Tim from Denmark, Maro Engel, the German driver, in 6th place, winner of the Moscow DTM round a few years ago. And then Felipe Fraga in the Ferrari is 7th, Ricardo Feller is in 8th, René Rast in 9th, Kelvin van der Linde is in the last championship points position in 10th place, just ahead of, you know who, his brother Sheldon van der Linde. Then you got Maximilian Gutz, 12th, Lawrence Van Toor, 13th, Dennis Olsen, 14th, Arjun Miney, 15th, Philip Eng, 16th, Thomas Preining, 17th, Marius Zug, David Schumacher, 18th and 19th, and Clement Schmidt rounding out the top 20. Sebastian Loeb is 21st, Maximilian Buch, 22nd, Esteban Moot, 23rd, Alessio De Leyda, another of the rookies, former F3 single-seater racer, in 24th, and Esme Hawkey, 25th. Rolf Innissen was stopped out on track, and early in the race we lost Marco Wittmann, Nico Muller and Dev Gore. So are we about to get things back up to full speed here with just about 20 minutes to go? Safety car lights are still on. Be a single file restart. It'll be Mirko Bortolotti to lead them away. At the moment, they are midway through the lap at sector 2, and that gives you some idea of the many undulations that you get here at the track. Then downhill into turn 9, uphill climb to turn 10, end of sector 2, and then it's downhill out of 11 all the way down through to 12, another valley, and then you're uphill again from 13, almost level in terms of height where you were at turns 10 and 11. Turn 14 is actually just across from turn 11. The circuit weaves in and out of itself quite a lot, and then you got a long downhill run section from 14 through to 15, which is, Esme Hawkey says, not quite flat, just a little lift through turn 15. It's incredibly quick, and then over the start-finish line. So what a race we've got lined up here. The fastest lap of the race at the moment to Lucas Stoltz. He's getting the bonus point for that as it stands because he's in the top 10, so it will count. Safety car lights are still on as it stands. Come out of turn 15, over the little rise, and there'll be one more lap behind the safety car. They go past the commentary box window. This is good news for anybody that pitted earlier, because their tyres, towards the end of the race, they're going to feel them going off and struggling for grip maybe, but the more laps you have behind the safety car, the more time is taken out of the race, the less they will have to make those older tyres last for. They get more tyres this season for this first round, and for any driver's first round in the championship, they get 5 sets of Michelin tyres now, of Michelin slick tyres, 2 of which this weekend that's used for free practice, and the other 3 sets then are the ones they can use for the 2 qualifying sessions, the 2 races as new tyres. You can reuse the older tyres from free practice. After the first round then, it is 4 sets from round 2 onwards. 1 set you have to use in free practice, and the other 3 sets brand new you can use across the 2 qualifying sessions and the races. We get some super slow-mos now through the trees which surround the circuit. I'm very lucky to come here a couple of days early and have a big walk around the track on Thursday, sorry, and it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Some of the views, some of the shots you can get from up on the hills, it's great. And that grandstand you can see there, which runs halfway the length of the very long start-finish straight here, is absolutely huge. So 10 minutes to walk from one end of it to the other. But just lovely conditions, around about 20, 21 degrees the air temperature. The safety car is coming in on this lap and the lights go out. That's the signal to the drivers. We're going to get around about 16 minutes of racing. They're just coming down towards turn 12 at the moment. So they're end of the second sector into sector 3, and now getting ready for what's going to be the side-by-side rolling restart. Once the safety car disappears, it's the pole sitter that will control the pace. Lucas Auer alongside, trying to get as close as he can here. Can he get a race victory to add to his growing tally, Lucas Auer? 5th in the championship last year, but one of the real form drivers in the second half of the season. He's 7 times a race winner, one of the most experienced DTM racers out there, but not one of the most experienced GT3 racers. He has learned quickly, though, the Austrian. This is his 108th DTM race start, and he's a real threat here, alongside Bortolotti. There, the safety car peels in. All eyes fixed then on the restart. They come over the crest. To the left is Bortolotti. To the right is Auer, who started from the second row of the grid. And then Grenier trying to get back in the mix, having dropped that place early in the race to Lucas Auer down at turn 5. And Bortolotti controls the pace, but he doesn't get off the line very well at all. There's some contact, there's some body work. Lucas Auer is in front, and Bortolotti is going to drop down to 4th or 5th place here. He's going to get through. Mauro Engel is going to come charging through. Lucas Stoltz is second at the moment, and Engel is alongside. And Grenier dropping back as well. He's going to be well outside the top 6. Smoke pouring from the back of one of the cars in the background. Was that the Ferrari? Yes, it was the Ferrari, I'm afraid, that lost lots of body work. And so the number 74 car, Fraga, that was battling for a top 6 finish, has got bodywork rubbing on the tyre now. So a dramatic restart. This is a slightly new procedure they've got for the restart. Lucas Auer was on the money, though. Everybody squeezing into turn 5 at the back of the field. Not everybody successfully. And they're pulling off on the inside. It's going to be, I'm afraid, a retirement for Felipe Fraga. So he's out of it, and we've got everything changed now. Auer in the lead of the race, Stoltz in second. Ricardo Feller looking to get himself a podium finish as well now. Remember, he was one of the early pit stoppers. There is Felipe Fraga's cut. She pulled off on the first of the hairpins, not using that hairpin, so he's in a safe zone there. It's the further hairpin that they used for turn 5. And Bortolotti still just about fending off Ricardo Feller, and Kelvin van der Linde going side by side with Maximilian Gotz now. The drivers who finished 1st and 3rd in the championship last year. Maximilian Gotz with the number 1 on his car is on the outside line. Kelvin van der Linde's got the inside line as they make their way through turn 14. And I think the Audi will be just about ahead. Yes, it will. The number 3 Audi ahead of the number 1 Mercedes. The 2 SSR Performance Porsches just behind them, having a good race here. Not the debut for the team or Porsche in DTM, that around last year, but they are having their first full campaign. Is that Grenier coming into the pits as well, I think, with some damage. So Auer leads. 2nd place is Stoltz. 3rd place is Mauro Engel. Things really worked out for him with that safety car period. And then it's Mirko Bortolotti, the former race leader, the one that led them on the restart. but I think got a little bit battered around. So he's fourth, Ricardo Feller fifth, Kelvin van der Linde is sixth. That was René Rast coming into the pits. Maximilian Götz is seventh, then Olsen eighth, Vantor ninth, Sheldon van der Linde 10th, and Grenier dropped down to 11th place at the end of that restart. And there, as they all crept together, then fanned out all of a sudden. And I think cars just clipping the back of other cars as they dived out. Very slowly taken, wasn't it, that restart? Some were happy, some were decidedly unhappy with the way things went there. All good, though, at Team Winward, because their man is leading the race now, Luca Sauer. Can Grasser come back from this? Can Bortolotti get himself back into a podium? And the big victim on that restart, I'm afraid, there you can see with the right rear absolutely smoking and rubbing on the bodywork and delaminating, was Felipe Fraga, who looked so promising after that excellent performance in qualifying. So we've got 12.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. The restart is under investigation, rather unsurprisingly. Not a happy return to the DTM for René Rast. It was going pretty well up until that safety car restart, but it's another one that's picked up damage. He's looking at the front left of the car there. So Rast out of it, the 3-time champion. Getting away from the pack now is Luca Sauer, the Austrian, leading. Luca Stolz in second place. Maro Engel in third. The Austrian leads the two Germans. Mirko Bortolotti, the Italian, in fourth place. Ricardo Feller still fifth, still with Kelvin van der Linde sixth. Remember, Kelvin started the race 17th position and is now just ahead of his teammates. These both racing for Ab Sportsline, despite the different livery on the cars. And it's Kelvin ahead of Ricardo now. Just about. They're running in 5th and 6th positions. And the Porsche, I think of Dennis Olsen, just falling away from them. Maximilian Götz looks like he's just falling away from Olsen and has got Olsen's teammate, Laurens Vantur, hugely experienced GT racer, in 9th place, pressuring him. The last points position at the moment is Sheldon van der Linde in 10th place with his Schubert Motorsport teammate, Philip Eng, just behind him in 11th. And Grenier, I think, has suffered some damage on that restart, having dropped all those places. He's also not massively quick now, running in 12th place. So a real shame for the driver that sensationally qualified on his debut on the front row of the grid. As they come out of 11, down through 12, uphill climb now just before you get to the apex. And Bortolotti is looking like he's gathered his thoughts now and is going back on the attack here, trying to find a way past Maro Engel to get himself at least a podium finish here. He's able to take a nice tight line as they come out through turn 14, and he gets as close as he can underneath the rear wing of the Mercedes to try and set up a move maybe on the run down to turn 1. The car was dancing around a little bit though, and he's lost a little bit of ground, a little bit of traction, so he's going to be too far back by the time they get to turn 1 to have a lunge. He comes past the commentary box window and there's about 3 car lengths between them. And Götz is coming under attack. Saw him go past the commentary box window with 1 car either side of him. And there we go. Sheldon van der Linde gets there first, and then the Porsche gets through ahead of Götz. So Götz loses the place to Laurens Vantur and drops down to 10th position now. So Sheldon van der Linde moves further up inside the points now at the head of that group of cars. That moves him up from 10th to 8th. And Maximilian Götz under pressure from Philip Eng now in the blue BMW. The Austrian driver has got the inside line and will dive down into turn 5 to put the reigning champion still further away from a point-scoring finish. And they can see coming out of turn 5 through turn 6 over the crest. Philip Eng is through. The orange, black and blue Mercedes of Michael Grenier still unable to fight back after his problem on the restart. So he's still well out of the points, I'm afraid, but at least still running on track. Right, the race leader, Luca Sauer, is 1.1 seconds clear of Luca Stolz. Luca Stolz, that gap is coming down for him to Maro Engel, because Maro Engel has been pushed on really hard here by Mirko Bortolotti. And you've got Kelvin van der Linde potentially catching that battle as well. So we could have a really good scrap here in the closing minutes for second place between Stolz, Engel, Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde. It's all bunching up. Not that far up the road is the leader, but if they all start fighting each other, he's going to get further away, Luca Sauer. Much quicker through turns 13 and 14 is the Lamborghini. But here, the Mercedes going downhill through turn 15 seems to just stretch its legs. He runs wide over the curves, but keeps his foot in, Maro Engel, in the pink Porsche. Over the crest. Downhill run now for the last bit of the straight into turn 1. And Bortolotti was closer that time, but still too far back. Turn 3, is an opportunity to overtake, but I think he's still too far back again. Turn 5 then. The left-hander coming up, wants to go down this back straight. That might be an opportunity to have a lunge. Kelvin van der Linde is just a bit too far back for now. So Bortolotti would desperately want to get a podium out of this, having started from pole position at the very, very least. Flashing his lights in the background is the Norwegian Dennis Olsen in the Porsche, trying to distract Kelvin van der Linde, but he's a long way back on him for now. So this you're looking at is the battle for the final podium position in round 1 of DTM 2022. Maro Engel fending off just about Mirko Bortolotti. As it stands, it's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, Auer, Stolz and Engel. But the Lamborghini, I don't think he's interested in Bertolotti in 4th place. I think he just wants some silverware and a podium, although the points would be very handy. When you start on pole position, anything but a win is a disappointment. He's got to be a little bit careful. Well, having said that, I think he's got to be too careful because they've pulled a gap now on Kelvin van der Linde, so he can try some different lines here without worrying about losing his own place. And the green and black Lamborghini gets great traction again coming out of the corners. But it's not really a big opportunity to overtake. He's much quicker, isn't he? Uphill through turns 13 and 14. He almost gets into the back of the Mercedes here. He's trying to get as tight as he can to give himself a run through turn 15. But this is where the Lamborghini drops back each time by a couple of car lengths. The Mercedes pulls clear. He'll get back to him under braking, but he needs to be closer if he's to attack into, well, really turn 3 is probably the first big opportunity for Bortolotti to try and come through. Dropping downhill, no chance yet. Kelvin van der Linde's Audi a little bit closer to them now as well. SB Hawkey, I'm afraid, is coming to the pits as well, so a problem, I think, for the T3 Motorsports Lamborghini, which leaves 22 cars on track. Sebastian Loeb doing a decent job in 16th place. 1 minute 43.1 his last lap time. He's able to lap well within a second of the leaders. As we get the replay of this very tight moment. Was a touch. If there wasn't, it was very, very close. Well, it's hard to say 100% from that angle, but it looked like they might just have traded a bit of paintwork there. Bortolotti gave it the max coming on the gas, coming out of the corner to try and stay underneath the rear wing of the Mercedes. Still, he hasn't managed to find a way past. He knows if he can get past one Mercedes, he might be able to get past another, because still not really getting away from them is the yellow machine of Lucas Stolz, and really Lucas Auer's not that far up the road, but time is running out now, 6 minutes or so to go. And the battle as tight as ever. So 6 minutes to go. Let's head back down into the pit lane to hear now from Verena.
Another man who retired is René Rast, and looking at your car in the front left, it doesn't look very good. What happened during the restart?
Yeah, apparently the two cars ahead of me, Philipp Fraga and Bortolotti, they didn't really react on the green. I got the command green on the radio, so I accelerated, but that time those two cars in front, they didn't, so I touched Philippe on the left, right, and then had a big damage on my front left.
So big shame, but hopefully tomorrow will be a better day.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, René. Back to you.
Yeah, a bit of confusion over the new start procedure, which they all knew about, but you know, you don't go when the pole sitter goes on those side-by-side restarts anymore. You have to wait for the lights and react to the lights. So it's almost a rolling standing start, if you know what I mean. Not controlled by the effectively the pole sitter, but by the starting gantry. And a couple didn't react as well, maybe, as they might have done. And that was what then backed up the field and caused all the contact. René Rast involved in that, Felipe Fraga involved in that as well. Mirko Bortolotti was the one that dropped from first down to fourth, and he's still desperately trying to find his way back into the top three here. But again, Maro Engel fends him off. They've both got a little bit closer now to the tail of Lucas Stolz, certainly through the middle sector of the lap. To show how hard he's pushing, Maro Engel's just done his personal best lap of the race, a 1:42.0, 3/10 quicker than the top two, which is why Lucas Stolz has almost got this battle upon him now. It's going to be a three-way battle for the last few minutes of the race for second place. There are three of them going for the final two spots on the podium. One of them's going to be disappointed. And Mirko Bortolotti doesn't want it to be him. He flicks one way, he flicks the other. He's all over the back of the Mercedes. He's so much quicker through those slower corners, the Lamborghini. And now he gets alongside. This is as close as he's been. He tucks back in behind the rear wing, but he's putting huge pressure here on Maro Engel. Maro, though, he's soaking it up. He's a really good demonstration of defensive driving, this, from Maro Engel and the number 88 Mercedes, because he's defending, but he's not overdoing, he's not over-blocking, he's not causing himself to be slow out of the corners. And the longer it goes on, the more he knows where the attacks are likely to come. So he's able to cover it off that little bit better, anticipate what the Italian might throw at him. And that's allowed, certainly through the first couple of corners, Kelvin van der Linde to get a little bit closer to them all in the black and white AB Sportsline Audi, which runs in 5th place. I'm very pleased with his efforts from 17th on the grid. So there, Bortolotti in the number 63 machine. The inside line he's defended. That's a key overtaking spot. So can he cut back on, get on the throttle a little bit quicker here as Bortolotti now draws alongside Engel. This might be his chance. He'll be on the outside line though for turn 7, and the Mercedes will come back at him, but he might go deep into the corner. Can the Lamborghini get back at him coming out of the corner there, side by side in the battle for the final podium position? Mario Engel will not give this up. Engel stays ahead. Bortolotti's tried everything there. He's throwing the kitchen sink at the Mercedes, but the German driver, fantastic defensive driving. Now Kelvin van der Linde is almost with them to make it a 3-way battle. 2 3/4 minutes left on the clock, plus 1 lap once the time runs out. Lucas Auer comes through in first, Lucas Stoltz in second, Maro Engel third, but right with him, as he's been for a few laps now, is Mirko Bortolotti. He's brought with him Kelvin van der Linde, and a queue now forming up with Dennis Olsen in the first of the SSR Performance Porsches at the back of that group, running in 6th place, the number 94 yellow machine. Now who's to say Ricardo Feller and Sheldon van der Linde might not join the party as well for a fraught final couple of laps. Over the crest to start another lap of the race, then they come. Lucas Auer with just over 2 minutes to go. So it should be time for 3 more laps, 2 before the time runs out, and then that extra lap at the end. So 3 long, long laps for Maro Engel to try and defend his podium position here. He's been good value for money, that's for sure, but so too is a very exciting driving, attacking style of Mirko Bortolotti. If he doesn't get on the podium, it will not be for the want of trying. Maro Engel's only ever had 1 podium finish in the DTM, and that was his win at Moscow in 2017. A race that he won from 17th on the grid, benefiting from one of the drivers having pitted before the safety car came out in that particular race. So Maro Engel looking for his 2nd podium in his DTM career, what's going to be his 61st race start. Well, Nico Muller watching on, having been a spectator for the vast majority of the race. Hopefully from his point of view and from Rosberg's point of view, day 2 will be a much better one. It couldn't have been much worse, unfortunately, but they know they've got pretty good pace. But I think contact and incidents might be a bigger feature this year because there are just so many cars out there. The chances of getting involved in incidents is obviously higher. A couple of cars under investigation for their pit stops. One is Maro Engel in the 88 car, and another is Marius Sugg, the 19-year-old. So that's something that's going to be looked at after the race. But for now, Maro Engel's got to put that out of his mind if he even knows about it, and just keep on defending. But it's been a calmer lap, hasn't it, that one? Less pressure coming from the Lamborghini. So less than 30 seconds left on the clock. The clock will run out on this lap, and then plus 1 lap after the time. So we're on the penultimate lap of the race. As Bortolotti got enough to just have 1 more attack here. It was scintillating stuff with the pair of them ran side by side for 3 or 4 corners. It's good, fair racing though, isn't it? It's as tight as you like, but it is absolutely fair. Closing now, turn 5, an opportunity. Is the Lamborghini close enough to attack? Probably not. It would be a real chuck it down the inside, hit and hope move. And quite rightly, Bortolotti sits tight. He was too far back. They might have 1 more chance at that corner. Just keep the pressure up, that's all you can do. Hope you force the driver ahead into a mistake. Maro Engel sort of try to keep tabs with Lucas Stoltz just ahead of him, but always, I'm sure, with an eye to the mirrors as they make their way into the right-hander now at the top of the hill through turns 10 and 11. Downhill again, down towards 12. The uphill once they get to the apex for turn 13. And this is where the Lamborghini is definitely quicker. The Grasser team have got the car set up beautifully here. This is where he really was able to get the qualifying lap sorted at the end of the lap, the final sector. That's where he gained a big advantage on others to get himself pole position. He's going to be almost alongside Maro Engel again, isn't he, when they come back into the shot? Yes, he is. He's got his foot in the door again. He's halfway alongside the Lamborghini Huracan, dancing and twitching over the tarmac. He's side by side now as Lucas Auer starts the last lap of the race. This is the chance, Bortolotti, to get on the podium at the start of the final lap of the race. He's not going to give this one up, but Maro Engel is not going to give it up easily either. Lamborghini down the inside. Careful not to outbrake himself and run wide now. Hold off the position, defend the line into turn 3, which he does. He gets across, and he is through. And they are very pleased with that at Grassa Racing. Bortolotti through with a great move. He's been setting that up time and time again, hasn't he? But he got it absolutely right there. What a sight it was as the car, just on the limit of adhesion, skipped and danced across the tarmac, flat out through turn 14 and 15. Brilliant move from Bortolotti. Engel, great defensive driving for lap after lap after lap, but he couldn't quite do it in the end. The race one lap too long for him, and he's not got his work finished yet because, out wide goes Bortolotti on the curbs. Maro Engel was more interested in keeping Kelvin van der Linde behind him because that Audi was getting closer, but he might have another chance to get back at the Lamborghini now, which has obviously used up all of his grip here, but I think he's managed to just about get it back online, but the car was dancing and understeering wide there. This is his favourite bit of the track now through turns 12 and 13, so Bortolotti should be okay now to get that third place sorted out. Meanwhile, the Porsche of the Norwegian driver Dennis Olsen having a look at the inside of Kelvin van der Linde on this last sector of the lap, and a 5-second time penalty for Maro Engel as well. They were looking at the pit stop, so that's going to push him down several positions with cars queued up behind him. He's going to lose 3 or 4 places, I think, once the time he's added on. But here to win the first race of DTM 22 is Lucas Auer. He flashes the lights. It's victory for Lucas Auer and Team Winward in the opening round of the 2022 season here at Portimao. Lucas Stoltz gets an excellent second, and Bortolotti completes the podium.
It's a nice present at my home track. Slow down, please. Slow down. Maximum fuel save. Collect a lot of pickup.
Well, that was all about the restart for Lucas Auer. He got himself up to second in the early stages of the race. Got himself into a position where he was alongside Bortolotti and just reacted better when the lights turned green on the restart with just under 16 or just under 17 minutes to go. And although he never really stretched his legs and got away from the rest of them, he just controlled things. So Lucas Auer, the winner. Lucas Stoltz comes home in second. It's a Mercedes 1-2, but all the entertainment coming from Mirko Bortolotti. In the end, he actually didn't need to get past Maro Engel because Maro got that 5-second penalty, but it doesn't detract from what was a fantastic move. So Bortolotti third. Kelvin van der Linde is promoted to 4th place with this 5-second pit stop penalty being added to poor old Maro Engel, who's dropped to 10th place. So it is Auer, Stoltz and Bortolotti on the podium. Kelvin van der Linde promoted to 4th. Dennis Olsen 5th. Ricardo Feller into 6th place from 13th on the grid. Remember, Kelvin van der Linde started 17th, so he's come through to 4th place. So van der Linde, Olsen and Feller round out the top 6. Sheldon van der Linde ends where he starts. There he is going through shot in the reds and yellow BMW, drawing alongside Lucas Auer to congratulate him. So Sheldon van der Linde, good start to the season in 7th place. Laurens van Teur in 8th on his DTM debut. Philip Eng in 9th on his return, and Maro Engel crossed the line 4th, but the 5-second penalty with everybody bunched up behind him in the end cost him 6 places, down to 10th position and just the 1 championship point, with Lucas Stoltz getting the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. Their confirmation of the results. Maximilian Gutz, the defence of his title, begins with 0 points. 11th place finish for him. Nicky Tim comes home in 12th. There's another one that faded away after that restart. Thomas Preining 13th. Esteban Moot 14th. And a very disappointed Michael Grenier as well, who ran in the top 3 for the first half of the race. 15th after he got tangled up in the restart as well. Sebastian Loeb 16th on his DTM debut. Arjan Mining 17th. Marius Zerk 18th. Max Buch and David Schumacher rounding out the top 20. With Clement Schmidt 21st. Alessio De Leda 22nd. Esme Hawkey retired 9 laps to go. And we also lost René Rast, Felipe Fraga, Rolf Inischen, who brought about the safety car. And then early on we lost Marco Wittmann, Dev Gore, and his Team Rosberg teammate Nico Muller was the first one to retire. So excellent race, lots to talk about, lots going on out on track as the cars, the drivers head then into the winner's circle there, the top three who we'll hear from and we'll see on the podium. But congratulations to Lucas Auer. Well, a few weeks ago he said, I want to start the season like we ended last season, and he has absolutely done that now. So from his last 4 weekends, including the last 3 of 2021, his last 4 weekends, he's now picked up 3 wins in a second. And he's not done yet. Lucas Auer in search of his first championship title. Been very impressive the way he's gone about his business. He picks up his 8th career DTM race victory. One of the drivers that remains with the same team for 2022, Team Windward. Luca Stoltz gives him a high five as well. Great drive from Luca. He gets his maiden podium, of course, in the DTM to start what's going to be his first full campaign in the championship. So well done to Luca Stoltz and Team HRT. That's already a podium-paying combination for them. Only his 3rd race, Luca Stoltz, who was 3rd in the ADAC GT Masters Championship last year and the year before. Been a runner-up in Blancpain, has been a Blancpain sprint champion. He's got a great pedigree, and he showed that today with that 2nd place finish, Luca Stoltz.
Hey, thank you.
Always with his eyes in the mirrors, with that Bortolotti Engel battle, which was scintillating. We'll get to hear, I'm sure, about that restart from Mirko Bortolotti when he speaks to Verena. That was where it all went wrong for him, really, because he was in control up until that point. But he did give us that thrilling battle for 3rd place during the final 10 or 15 minutes of the race. So there's Lucas Stoltz, now a podium finisher in the DTM, and Mirko Bortolotti has picked up his 2nd podium. It was only his 3rd race in the DTM after the 2 outings at Assen last year. It was not the step of the podium he wanted to be on, but the team will be, no doubt, pleased with their pace and performance here this weekend. And a great drive through from 17th to 4th for Kelvin van der Linde. So the race complete, the podium coming up, and we can hear from one of our drivers now, down with Verena Vrit.
And I've got Mirko Bortolotti here. Mirko, you started in P1 and you had everything under control till the restart. Then what happened at the restart?
That's actually a good question. I don't know.
No idea?
No, because there's not much you can do wrong from a driver's perspective. You just wait for the green and then go. I had no power, and at that moment, you have to investigate. I don't know, something really unusual that I never experienced before. So at the end of the day, I think it was a good result to be on P3, because it could be also a complete nightmare in the end.
Absolutely, you were fighting like an animal and you managed to get P3 in the very last minutes. You overtook Mauro Engel, which in the end you didn't really have to because he had a penalty, but you did manage. He would have gone back 5 places anyway, but you managed P3, so I guess it's a good P3 considering that it could have gone worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't aware about Mauro's penalty. I didn't know, but so good to know. But yeah, so good fight with him. Always nice to fight with these guys, you know, really hard but fair at the same time. So good racing also from inside.
All right, thank you so much. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena. So there's the answer. There's a lack of power when he hit the fast pedal and the green lights went out. It just bogged down. So they'll have to look into that. But it wasn't him not reacting to the lights. It was the car not reacting to the accelerator being hit. So that's what cost him in the end. But as Verena said, he drove like an animal after that. We certainly monstered Mauro Engel, didn't he? And it's a thrilling battle. We can hear now, though, from another of our podium finishers.
And now we've got a very happy man here, starting from P3 and finishing the very first victory of the DTM 2022. Luki, how does it feel? How happy are you?
Very happy. You brought me some luck. You said we have good pace, we had good pace and a good strategy. And this was key today.
Absolutely, and you might want to repeat that tomorrow.
Yes, so we have to talk before the race.
We'll definitely do that. But also, I mean, obviously it's a challenging racetrack and so many cars out there. It was a bit of a jungle out there after the restart, but you perfectuated the race.
Yeah, for us was clean. I think I had a bit of luck with Mirko having some problems at the restart, and I could take advantage of that, but that's racing.
And you did a fantastic job, so now enjoy. Thank you so much, Luki. Back to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Yeah, fantastic race that, absolutely managed to perfection by Lucas Auer to take his 8th race victory, 17th career podium in the DTM, and his first win since Hockenheim towards the end of last season. And of course, a small piece of history, because he becomes the first ever driver to win a DTM race in Portimao. So he takes that plaudit as well. Well done to Luigi. So we've heard from your race winner. You've heard from the driver that led much of the race up until the restart, Mirko Bortolotti. And Lucas Stoltz, the other driver to make the podium, as we see back some video highlights now from the race and the grid, which was colourful and beaming in the sunshine here. There's that view over to the building, the hospitality building on the inside, with all its spectator terraced areas on the inside of Turn 5. And, well, as is usually the case in DTM, day 2 might be very different, but Lucas Auer can celebrate for now. We've got success ballast to come into it tomorrow as well, which is slightly changed for the year as well. It's another change to DTM, so it's still the top 3 from the previous race that have to carry success ballast into the next race, and it's still 25 kilograms of ballast that you have to carry if you win a race going into the next race, but the ballast is slightly less now if you finish second. So last year, Lucas Stoltz finishing second would have had to carry 18 kilograms of ballast into the next race. Now it's only 15, and Mirko Bortolotti, for finishing third last year, would have had 15 kilograms on the car, but it's now only 5. So 25, 15 and 5 kilograms, the new success ballast system for the season. The other slight weight change for the year is that the minimum weight of the drivers has been reduced slightly to 80 kilograms. It was 84 kilograms. The drivers underneath that, which I suspect Lucas Auer might be, is a very slight figure. Then they can make it up with extra ballast on the car to make sure the driver and car make the minimum weight limits. Not worried about any of that though. With a big smile on his face is Lucas Auer, because he is about to be beckoned onto the top step of the podium, and of course he'll walk away from day 1 of the DTM 2022 as the early, and it is early, but he will be the championship leader. So we'll have our top 3 drivers brought up onto the podium, and our winning team representative as well. 3rd place then, a bittersweet podium I would suggest for Mirko Bortolotti. Wanted the win, but still an excellent drive nonetheless. And the pace he'll be very pleased with. Lucas Stoltz, for the first time in only his 3rd start in the DTM, makes it onto the podium as well. Those two have only had 3 ever DTM races, but more than 100 for this man, and it's to the top step of the podium for Lucas Auer. And the team that took him there were Team Windwards, and it is Maurizio Moreira, who is Portuguese. You heard him on the radio say, "Thank you, Lucas, for winning in my home track." He's a Portuguese race engineer. He's Lucas Auer's engineer, so he takes the podium for the team, and there his driver, Lucas Auer, now makes it onto the top step of the podium. A fantastic race all round, a fantastic start to the season, and with the drivers now on the podium, we'll get the national anthem of our race winner. The soothing melodies of the Austrian national anthem. A few moments for Lucas Auer to reflect on another fine achievement.
It's time for
all smiles for our top 3. Well, at least for 2 of them.
We start with our 3rd place
and of course,
driver
for our team winners. Team Winward. 3-car lineup this year, but it's Lucas Auer that's delivered their first race victory of the season. The first trophy to be presented, though, goes to your third place finisher, Mirko Bortolotti. It's another podium for Lamborghini at the hands of the Italian. And the first podium in the DTM for the Grassa Racing team.
Kappa Yolta, congratulations.
More celebrities on the podium, this time to deliver the trophy to Lukas Stolt, second place in the Mercedes for the Hapt Racing team, Team HRT, Hubert Hapt's team, by 8/10 of a second. Team Winward taking the race victory.
With the trophy for the winning team. Congrats.
And now the winners. Trophy presented to our winning team, Team Winward. And in his home country, Maurizio Moreira picks that up. Lucas Auer
and of course
picks up the winner's trophy.
Trophy for the winning team, as well as we have the trophy for the winner. Look at now for Mercedes team AMG Winward from the hands of Frank Werler again. Congratulations.
And it's Frank Werler, former international footballer, presenting the trophy first to Lucas Auer and then to his race engineer for the teams, Maurizio Moreira.
Please get together to make a
so they'll all now gather
happy.
For the photographers, and once that's done, I suspect the champagne will be released. And Lucas Auer's had a bit more practice, at least with the DTM champagne, than the drivers either side of him.
And as soon as the
and there you go.
Done, it's time
He's
for
off.
champagne, guys.
Wins the race for the podium spray as well. Gets the champagne open. That was direct reaction time, so you can see why he was so good off the restart now, can't you, Lucas Auer? He wins that race. Poor Lukas Stolt gets absolutely splattered. And celebrations at the end of day one here. We've got another qualifying coming up tomorrow morning, 9:05 local time. We're covering that 5 minutes beforehand. Another 20-minute qualifying session to set the grid for the second round. Same time tomorrow for race 2. It'll be another 55-minute plus 1 lap race. Hopefully another thriller. And how much of a part will the success ballast play? Might be quite high given the undulations of this circuit. All that extra weight Lucas Auer will have to carry on the car heading up those hills is surely going to affect the car in terms of its acceleration more than on a flatter circuit. And also it's going to, with a heavier car on a track which is pretty heavy on the tyres, affect the tyre degradation. So Lucas Auer will have his work cut out, but it's all happy for now. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage of race 1. From me, Chris Hartley, in the comms box, it's goodbye for now. And to round out the show, let's go back now to Verena in the pit lane.
And now, just a second ago, I had Luca Stolz here. There he is again. And congratulations, coming from P8 to P2. So how does that feel, having a first podium in your first season and the first race of the DTM?
Yeah, definitely really good. The team did a mega job. Qualifying was not so easy this morning. It was, let's say, only P8, but it's still good in this field. But yeah, it took a quite good start. But then it was difficult to follow other cars. But then the team did just a mega pit stop. And the outlap was really good. And that's actually where we gained positions. And then I was a bit lucky at the last restart. And I could finish it off in P2.
I was just going to say, the restart actually really mixed things up. I mean, it was a bit of a jungle out there for a while. We also lost, I think, all in all around 7 cars. I mean, it was pretty crazy, but you managed to keep your head all cool and finishing in a P2, I guess. That's fantastic. Are you looking forward to tomorrow now? Hopefully kind of coming in that way again? Maybe even, who knows, a victory? Who knows?
Well, in this field you never know. First you have to qualify. This is the first task in the morning, and then you see where you end up. But yeah, it was a really good first impression, I think, and a nice first race. And yeah, we keep pushing. And
I was just going to say, considering the track is pretty tricky and you do have the pace, so anything is possible for tomorrow.
Yeah, the car was not so easy in the end anymore, so that the track eats the tire a little bit. But yeah, I think that everything is possible tomorrow. All
right, Luca. Well, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow again. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And obviously also looking forward to the second race here in Portugal. I mean, we saw so much excitement today. Really looking forward to tomorrow. I hope you are too. Join us tomorrow. So see you then. Now here are the highlights. Do enjoy. Bye-bye.